Hey, hey, welcome back to Squatch Talks podcast.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Better and better. Let me make sure we're streaming here. I have it set up properly, hopefully. How's everybody? We're as you can see, sharing the microphone this evening and the camera as well. So I thought we would try something different for this week's episode. Just coming to you live, and what we're going to do is do a little wrap up of some of the events that have transpired over the last couple of weeks. It's been busy as heck, hasn't it? Oh my goodness. I hope everybody's had a great couple of weeks. I know we took a little hiatus in May because Heather and I went to attend a wedding in California on the West Coast for my niece, Jessica, and her husband. And it was a great time, right?
Beautiful.
Did you have fun?
Oh, yeah. I had the time of my life there.
Hey, it's working. It's
leave.
working. And we have a couple of guests watching already. So thank you. Thank you for clicking on the video. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. And hit that notification bell. Oh, I got to turn my volume off the phone. That would be good. I'm so silly. Anyway, I haven't quite mastered all the technology stuff yet. But again, we're just coming to do a live stream tonight. We had a lot of things going on. A couple of people watching were on our expedition here in New Jersey Pine Barrens. So thank you for all the attendees and everybody who helped out. Patty and her husband Eric came down from New York, and Patty's an investigator now, and she assisted me. And Brian, Nathan's brother, came down from Pennsylvania with Skylar, and they were a big help as always. Skylar, I put to work behind the griddle.
Cooking. Yeah, he liked it too.
Yeah, and he's good at it.
He enjoyed it.
He's good at it. So hey, nothing wrong with that. And wanted to start off first though by just kind of going back a little bit. If you recall, I think we had mentioned something. I don't know. Patty and Jacob had joined us 3 weeks ago. We did a live stream to kind of kick off season 4.
Right.
And at that point, you noticed I was missing my brother from another mother, Nathan. He decided he's going to take a little longer sabbatical. He had thought about going every other week at first, but he's really into his gardening and spending time with his grandson, Waylon. So I can't say that I blame him, but I will miss him. So we wound up getting a call though from my other brother from another mother, Brian Spinner, okay, and an impromptu invitation to come up to New York State and do a remote primitive campsite, which sounded awesome. And Heather's like, will that make you happy? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So she took one for the team.
What I didn't know was that primitive campsite means traipse through poison ivy and ticks and set up, on a little patch of grass. So I did take one for the team that night, but it was really fun.
Yeah, it was nice. And I'll definitely say it was in a spot that's kind of in the center of a lot of activity that Brian has had over the last 5 to 10 years.
And there was interesting ley lines. It was on a
It
ley
was
line.
actually on ley lines, which you've heard us talk about in previous episodes, correct?
My energy was totally off and I was feeling really drained.
Were you?
And just not well. And then after we left, I was fine. But yeah, it definitely seemed to have affected me in some way.
Yeah, kind of. I would say you definitely seemed a little off, But we made the best of things. And when we got there, Brian wasn't even there. I just happened to notice his tent out in the woods. So I said, it looks like Brian's tent.
Yeah.
So we set up ours next to it. And he had a fire ring all made up. And it was really remote. I mean, literally, this road we drove down to get there, I was like, I'm glad I'm in a Toyota, Let's go places.
I was impressed by his makeshift, though. The fire ring was beautiful.
It's what we did in the Pine Barrens.
I know, but these rocks were like huge.
Well, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
So we had a fun night just sitting by the campfire and talking, catching up, and came time to eat, and really we didn't prepare to make any meals, so we had to go find something to eat. So plan A was the diner, and they were closed because it was Memorial Day weekend.
Apparently, if you want to go out to dinner Memorial Day weekend in New York, go early. Don't go after 8 o'clock because nothing's open.
True. And then with plan B, which also was not open. Plan C turned out to be a bust. I think we went to Plan D, and that's when I got on the phone and I looked up something, and I said, let's do Plan E. And we went to Pauling, and there was a tavern that was still serving. I had called up, and they said, yeah, if you get here in the next 10 minutes, we're good. And we had a great dinner. It was awesome,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
unexpected.
some police activity outside, which was kind of
Questionable.
strange. Yeah, and they had the whole road taped off when we got back outside. So I don't know exactly what was going on there, but kind of interesting. So we got back to base camp and we kind of just hung out. We didn't really go on any hikes that night or go squatching per se. We stayed by the campground. And eventually you went into the tent and he and I sat out a little longer. What happened though before when I got into the tent? Wasn't there something that happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to tell
So,
it?
then I'm like laying there and I'm going to sleep and I hear a wolf like in the middle of the campground and I freaked out and I was like, Eric, what the hell was that? And he was like, shh, be quiet. And then we're both like really silent. And then I'm laying there, my chest is pounding, like my heart is racing. And then I hear Eric starting to snore, and I'm like, "Wait, wake up!" Like I woke him up, and then I thought I heard something moving outside the tent, but it could have been Brian. Who knows? And then I couldn't sleep after that. When the next morning I woke up and found out it was Brian doing one of his wolf howls, and I was so mad.
Yeah,
I
he
was
actually
so
said,
mad.
he said, hey, did you like my coyote call? I said, coyote?
Oh
That's not a
yeah,
coyote. That was a
no.
wolf.
And then about 20 minutes into my panic, I did hear like a whole pack of coyotes off in the distance. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe it was a lone coyote and he's just kept coming around. I'm not as afraid of them as would be a wolf.
And I normally can tell Brian's calls, right? But
Yeah.
this was so loud and it seemed to come from behind me, which would have been up on the ridge, behind our
Eric, how
tent.
did you fall asleep? Like, I was so scared.
I didn't for like
You
an hour.
did.
I had my head up off the pillow listening. I actually thought I heard something enter camp.
I thought I did too.
I swear. And then you thought you heard something brushing on
It
the
was
tent,
like
right?
against the tent. Yeah. I don't get it.
Ah,
But yeah, it was
thank you,
Brian.
Greg.
Thanks, Brian.
But Brian also, is the 2023 champion Squatch caller. He took the title this year at Whitehall. So we're proud of him for that. So the next day we woke up and went to go have breakfast. And again, it's
Everything's
Memorial Day.
closed.
It's New York State. I guess nobody wants to work. So it was closed. Found a deli. We had a great little meal at the deli, and then we went for a hike back by where we camped. It was
Weird.
right by the AT. So we hiked up the road towards the AT and took a hike over to the Cat Rocks, which is an area that I've never been to before, although we had teams there on a previous expedition that Brian and I co-organized. And I'll tell you what a view, huh?
Beautiful.
Unbelievable. Quite the elevation, and it overlooks the whole valley. And Brian did one of his famous Squatch calls that I have on video. So I'll have to post that for everybody to enjoy. But that explains why he took the title for sure. So, we didn't hang out much longer after that. We got back, said our goodbyes and then drove the 3 hours home. And we had quite a scenic ride on the way home, right? I made a wrong turn and we wound up going through, do you remember the name of that campground?
No.
Shoot, it was where a previous expedition was in
No, I don't remember.
2016. Oh gosh, but anyway, it was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I mean, waterfalls and hills all over. So it was a very scenic ride home, and that began our Memorial Day week. So Wednesday, I'll fast forward to Wednesday. I was invited onto my friend Dustin's podcast, Dust Off the Mic. It's with Dustin. And it was a very entertaining show. So if you have an opportunity to check it out, it's Dust Off the Mic on YouTube. And he and I spoke for over an hour about Bigfoot, and he's quite the character. So it was a fun time. Thursday night, I had to do an interview for a 92.9 radio station, FM radio, because of the event that was taking place up in Perth Amboy on Saturday at Kearney Cottage. They were doing a little promo for that. And Friday, you and I were invited up to Boyertown, right? As guests of Eric Mintel Investigates. And he was doing a haunting at the 1759 farmhouse. That's what it was.
Yeah,
And
the New Spirit Old Soul in
on the
Boyertown,
grounds,
Pennsylvania.
which is one of Heather's favorite places to visit.
It's beautiful. And they have store. They're like, it's a store. There's 2 buildings and they have like country furnishings and decor and all that good stuff. But then the house is, the house. Somebody actually lives in there alone.
Yeah. Well,
And-
Beth's brother, I think, lives there,
Yeah.
Steve. And he's had some strange things happening. It turns out there's a spirit known as Elizabeth who used to live in that home in the early days, and she still apparently resides there today. So Eric and Dominic Sattel, his other investigator, who's a medium, they had a investigation that they were doing, and they had I guess you could say a screening party of the initial investigation that they had done. And then they took people through the home and gave them a little tour.
That house was amazing.
Oh, pretty
Amazing.
yeah. And the grounds itself too. So
And there
if you're in
was-
Boyertown, definitely check out New Spirit Old Soul.
There was a room that supposedly is Elizabeth's room. You can't go in there, right?
Well, they just didn't want us to
They didn't-
enter. Yes.
Yeah. And everybody was upstairs in the attic. Well, it was so hot up there. I couldn't stand up there anymore. So I went down in the hallway and I just, stood outside the room. I didn't go in. And I'm just waiting for something to happen. And then all of a sudden, something comes right out behind me, and I jumped like 10 feet. And it was that guy. What's his name? Ty or Ted, something like that. What was his name?
Yeah.
And he comes out like a back entrance or something from
He
upstairs.
came down what would have been the servants'
Oh my god!
quarters
Well,
or
it gave
entrance,
me a heart attack.
Yeah, Ty. I think his
Yeah.
name is.
But that was really fun. And then Eric was in the attic, and he tripped. What did he do?
I stepped on a board that apparently was not nailed down, and you know how the boards go up, and I kind of tripped over it, and of course Heather thought I was gonna.
Everybody jumped 10 feet.
Yeah, Ty especially. That
Everybody.
freaked him out. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was really interesting. I have to say, I didn't pick up any energy, and
I didn't either.
didn't feel threatened at all. But the house itself was beautiful, and it was great to be a guest there. Prior to going to the event, though, in Pennsylvania, we did have an opportunity, though, to meet with my other brother from another mother, Nathan and Terry, right, and the family.
Yeah, it
turned
was
out to
nice
be
seeing
there.
them.
Picked up some pizzas and some food, and we broke bread with them, and then headed over to see Eric Mintel at this event. So, and then it's funny because the next day, Heather wanted to. Is that everything? I think from
That, yeah.
yeah. I mean, we met a lot of cool people. Heard some stories also. From some people that were there about
Greg
some of
was
their
there.
experiences. Oh yeah.
Greg was
In
there.
fact, Greg was there.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey,
He says where Eric Spitter almost knocked himself out, the loose floorboards.
the loose floorboards.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey,
There you go.
but I'm nimble on my feet, as you can tell, because I never hit the ground
Yeah, well,
like a billy goat. So, but no, it was a fun night. Got to see Greg and his friend George. Right. George had some stories to tell too. That was
very
that was
interesting stuff,
Yeah.
actually. I talked to him for quite a while. I listened to
Very.
him talk for
Yeah.
quite a while. I get a word in, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
can talk, but anyway, we headed home that night. We didn't stay over, but the next morning I had to get up early because Jacob, from our friend Jacob from the Pine Barrens expedition, and also from Jacob's Creature episode, was picking me up in the morning, and we were going to drive up together to Kearney Cottage for the second annual Cryptid and Paranormal Festival. Heather had to work; she wasn't able to get off, so she felt bad.
It was
But,
either that or the expedition. I had to pick one.
Well, I'm glad you picked the expedition. So we drove up to Perth Amboy, and there was a bunch of speakers lined up. We got up there, perfect timing, and got set up. Mike Famelot was there. There was another guy there, Richard, I forget his last name now. He was a UFO guy. And Eric Mintel and Dominic showed up, and they were speakers.
Mike Famelot.
I said Mike Famelot. He was the first one to go on.
Yeah.
But then I got to meet Esteban Sarmiento. He was on as well after Eric Mintel. It was all put together by my friend Mike O'Connell, who's the lead singer from the band Mikkel's Plot.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had Nathan and I come up last year as a kind of a kickoff thing. And this year it was a little bit bigger and better as far as the venue. You know, they had
That
the
house
teen
though
center.
that
Well,
we had
yeah.
last year was really cool. I mean, I was getting spooky vibes left and right in that house.
And the K2 meter was going off like crazy.
I mean, like
with nobody around it.
crazy.
So yeah, after Esteban got done with his presentation, talked about Patty, the Patterson Gimlin film, and about why Patty may have been possible to have been a costume. Kept referring to Patty as a he, and so I was next up after him. And of course, some of the things that were shared previously, like by Michael, I said, well, Michael and I don't always see eye to eye on certain things as far as like population of how many Bigfoots there are,
Right.
especially in New Jersey. He seems to think there's only 3 clans and maybe 9 total Bigfoot. I find that to be, a low estimate, in my opinion.
How many do you think there are
Oh, at least 1,000, I would say.
in New Jersey?
In New Jersey, yeah. Yeah.
You think that there's that big of a population of them? Really?
I would think so, because if not, you would have a lot of inbreeding, and then there would be, a decline in their health. So I would say, and other researchers who I've spoken to have more knowledge about, these types of things.
Okay. Do
Put
you
those
think
numbers
there's
like
more in
Charles
our area than there are in other states? Like, or do you think there's like thousands of them in each state?
It depends on the state. Pennsylvania also has a high population.
Okay.
Based on the amount of sightings, I think. New Jersey's ranked almost like 4th, I think, in sightings. Got over 70 reports published, but
I
we
don't-
got thousands of
I don't
reports.
pretend to know anything about
I'm
this.
just saying,
so
that's
I'm
what I'm
really
saying.
interested in knowing that.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to look at the bear population of a state also.
Where there's
Okay.
bear, there's less Bigfoot, right?
No, that could be a potential threat for habitat as far as food source and things like that. But there's typically a correlation between bear population and Bigfoot population as far as numbers. Okay.
Okay.
And now southern New Jersey, we don't have many bear at all.
No.
But northern New Jersey, we got a lot of bears. So a lot of boo-boos. Anyway, Kearney Cottage was cool. I did my talk. Everybody was using PowerPoints presentations, and me with my being not so savvy on the technology end, I turned off the PowerPoint, tore up my notes, and I just told stories.
Mhm.
And then after I spoke, Ken Gerhard spoke and finished up things, wrapped things up. I had never met Ken before either, so that was fun. He's a like all the conferences, he does the circuit pretty regularly, and got an opportunity to speak with him, and he did say he'd be happy to come on the podcast in the future. So we'll look forward to speaking with Ken
Yeah, that'd be
in
interesting.
the near future.
Sure.
I'll have to get a hold of him while he's on a break from some of these Bigfoot conferences. So that wrapped up that week basically. I mean, it was fun packed.
You were nonstop.
And of course running the store at the same time and everything else that we have, right? And then getting prepared for the 2023 New Jersey Pine Barrens expedition. So, of course, I got to get everything ready to go, get the gear all packed up. I did that on Wednesday. Of course, Art volunteered to help me get things loaded in the truck on Thursday morning. He showed up late, so by the time he got there, I had most of the gear loaded, at least the heavy stuff. And I had him head out to base camp before me in case anybody was there early. But I wound up pulling up about 12:02, a few minutes fashionably late, and got things set up. Heather was working on Thursday, right?
12 hours. Yeah.
12-hour day, long day. But she managed to get off Friday and Saturday. So that was cool. Thursday, we basically set up our base camp. Patty and Eric were there. Jacob and his fiance Cassandra showed up later in the day.
Well, you guys had the smoke yet, right? Was there
Well,
smoke?
that's the thing. Oh, that's right. Wednesday, I wound up calling Matt because I was driving back from the store and it was just a haze of smoke. So I called Matt because I had some people concerned about coming up and having to deal with respiratory issues because of the wildfires that were going on in Canada and New Jersey. And so Matt was like, "Don't worry, I'm looking on the government site or whatever." He says, "By midnight tomorrow, it's going to be all out of there."
He was right.
And he was right.
He was absolutely right. I was really nervous for you about going out there like that, but
I know. I actually brought masks along, figuring, if anybody wanted to wear a mask, they could. Hey, we went through COVID, right? And
Yeah.
we got the expedition off as well.
we did.
So Thursday we did our meet and greet. We got set up and we had everybody kind of introduce themselves, tell a little bit about what got them into the topic. Had some dinner. Patty supplied a delicious baked ziti.
I know, I missed it. I was so
and
sad.
Italian bread.
I missed it.
What a treat. Thank you. And so everybody was feasting on that. And then we got ready for our night ops, and we did what I usually do on the first night, a Pied Piper routine. So that's something that kind of sticks near base camp. And we go out in a couple of different teams usually. And this time we all went out together, went down the trail where it splits off. We broke into two groups, and we then got set up after some more hiking and started to do a few provocations. Usually start off with a knock. Okay, that tells you if there's anything close by. And eventually did a couple of calls, but we keep it to a minimum. We don't want to get out there and just start, going off, because that potentially could also detract from the activity. So
Sure.
we did hear some barred owl responses, what we thought was maybe a Bigfoot responding before the owl. And then some attendees heard some knocks, right? And
I wasn't there.
you weren't there, right?
I don't know.
I'm asking you for. Hey. But yeah, we had a couple of knocks, and I think Patty's group had some rock clacks as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. We on our end had on my team, I was on one team, Patty led the other team for me. I had like a loud branch snap. So there was, I think, Bigfoot in the area. It wasn't the in your face kind of thing. The idea of the Pied Piper, of course, is to hopefully draw one back, to have them follow you back into base camp. Usually we'll have a third team hunkered down with a therm, something like this, a thermal imager that can record and take pictures or video of something following us back to base camp.
That base camp Squatch is home.
It's an awesome spot. It's where we actually kicked things off in the Pine Barrens back in 2014, where these casts were taken. Okay. Mike Flamelant was the one who called me down, because he had found this big one by the bridge. And then I came down to check it out in the early morning on Saturday, and I was looking at it. I said, yeah, it looks very interesting. It was filled with water. I said, but look, here's another one. And I found that one under the bush.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure I told this story. I said, hey, we're going to do a track casting, demo anyhow. Now we've got real ones. And then two of the attendees crossed over the bridge, went downstream, and found 18 juvenile tracks.
Patty said, yes, we did. So that means yes to the rock clacking.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I think.
Memory serves me correctly. I always say that after doing so many of these, you kind of get jumbled. You start to kind of blend things together, but this is kind of fresh. And so, yeah, Friday morning, we got back to base camp. I don't remember much as far as anything happening. I didn't hear anything coming by my tent on Thursday, but the idea, of course, is to hopefully draw them in. There was nobody else around either, which is absolutely perfect. That's another reason I like to do the Pied Piper, especially when there's no other campers around, But Friday morning, I got up and I went and picked up Heather, right? And you were all ready, and I got to shower. Didn't want to tell the other attendees, but I took a shower, right?
Yeah.
Got cleaned up and headed back to base camp with Heather. We did some scouting during the day, right?
You did. Yeah, you took the canoe out.
And oh yeah, I had a friend of ours, Andy Giles from Pinelands Adventure, was so kind as to bring us a Bigfoot canoe, and he had it delivered to base camp. Him and his wife Kathy stopped by with the infamous Willow, and we had a canoe. So I took Caden and Skylar with me on the maiden voyage. We did a daytime run. It's usually about a 2-hour excursion from where we were to where we put in to where we took it out. But we did it in about an hour and a half. That's because we were paddling. It was kind of shallow in areas. And then the idea was to do a water night ops later that evening. And Patty was going to be in the front. I was going to be in the back. And we had David, who was gonna sit in the middle and hopefully record something with Therm. Well, you know, things don't always go as you'd like them to.
The Squatch curse, babe.
The curse of Squatch.
It
yeah.
is.
My Therm died halfway, not even halfway down the river. And the GoPro's SD card was filled up. This is like, you know, stupid mistakes. But the funny thing was, we come along, it was still light out at this point. We come upon some people hanging out on the bank of the river. And I look up and I say, hey. And then I realize it's Jacob and his crew. And they're just hanging out, waiting for us to come downstream, right? So I say, hey, you got the Therm? I had given him my other Therm. So he says, yeah, Cassandra's got it. So I said, go run up and get it. So we traded Therms, and now we had another Therm, which of course wasn't as good, but better than nothing.
Hey,
Right?
it worked out good.
The funny thing was that at this point it's getting dark. And you know, that's why I did the day run, to get an eyes on, you know, see where the obstacles were and any things we need to avoid. So here we are, not using any headlamps. We're paddling down. And I'll tell you, it gets eerie on this river at night. We would come up on like cedar swamps, and it would be like a ghostly white kind of film, you know. It was
my
like, it was
gosh.
really spooky. I mean, woo, best canoe ride ever. Well, thank you. I thought so.
I was proud of Patty for
Yeah,
doing that.
no doubt. Well, she's got experience. It's
She
not
was
her
in the
first,
front, right?
it's not her first rodeo.
She was in the front of the canoe, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you took the rear,
that's right.
right?
And David was complaining about his butt burning in
Yeah,
the
well, you had that. We
middle.
should have brought him a pillow.
I said I would have brought you a pillow. I didn't know, you know.
No, I was proud of you. I was worried though, because it was dark and you know, time's going. We had friends there. Regina and her boyfriend Ken were there with the dog, and the dog started acting scared. Like, I mean,
This
Sarah
is a
was
hunting
there.
dog.
Yeah, Sarah was there and a couple of people, Art, and he's a pretty stoic dog. Like, he doesn't really react like that. And he was like whimpering and pulling and doing all kinds of stuff. And then we whipped out the Therm, the fireman's Therm, the big one. You can't record on that. And we thought we saw something. It was just trees, but there was something in the area that this dog was reacting to.
Usually I'll take a pee on the tree, and then I'll hand Art the Therm. I'll say, what's that over there?
Yeah, well, that's me. Yeah, so
we don't hoax, but that's
but
just
yeah,
having
so
fun, you know.
that's when you guys were still on the river. I guess you weren't.
We were still on the
You
river,
were still
yeah.
on the
And we
river.
had a chase car. We had the chase car, which was Eric and I think Brian and Skylar. They came down to scoop us up at the end of our journey. And I'll tell you what, we made it though. We didn't have any
You didn't
spills.
end up in the water, no.
No, we got stuck a couple of times, managed to get ourselves unstuck. It was pretty exciting. And funny thing is, Patty, I'm going to do it tomorrow with my firstborn for Father's Day. I'm going to rent a canoe and go down that part, well, further down that river, the same river.
Canoe or kayak?
Canoe, yeah. I called Andy today. I was going to do it through his organization, but they were booked solid. I thought maybe I could pull some strings knowing the director.
Can I get my Bigfoot canoe back?
That's what I said. He goes, hey, you can get it. It's at my house. I said, what? I got to pick it up.
Wait, give me your canoe and I'll spray paint a Bigfoot on
Well,
there
that's what
for
I'm
you.
going to do. He said he has a stencil we can use.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but anyway, I didn't want to impose. I thought if he had an availability, I would go through their organization. Instead, he was completely booked. He was sorry he couldn't help me out. I said, don't worry, I'll give Mix a call. So I called Mix and I got a canoe lined up and we're going to take it down the Wading River. So it'll be fun.
Nice.
So yeah, that was Friday night. And then I guess we got back to base camp. I think we hung out at base camp.
Hey, David's on.
Right?
Hi,
Hey,
David.
we just talked about David. Hey, welcome. So yeah, we had a good time, I think, on the river. And David actually was our photographer on the vessel. And he has experience in the field photographing wildlife. He's been to Africa and other places. So how cool is that? You know?
It was awesome. And I ended up going out with them.
Yeah, for ice cream, right?
I did. Well, I wanted ice cream and they have that little general store, but it was closed. So then we ended up going to Wawa and that was like 30 minutes away.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, next time take your phone with you at least. You know?
Yeah, well.
going off carousing with 3 strange men she just met. I don't know.
It was a good
Not
time.
that I'm worried.
Very
So
interesting.
I trust you.
Very interesting conversation with David, though.
No, that's cool. That's what it's about. You know, we meet people on these expeditions, they become friends, it becomes like family, you know, at least for me it has.
Mhm.
And we form strong bonds. And hey, that's the kind of people you want with you when you're out looking for an 8.5 foot tall primate that can tear your arms and legs off, right? So, but Friday night, I think after the 2 trips in the canoe, I was pretty beat, right?
Yeah,
So
we didn't do much
we didn't
after
do
that.
much after that. There was a couple of other attendees that went out and did their own thing.
We had a fire ban, so we couldn't do any s'mores or anything like that.
It really
So we
sucked.
just kind of hung out, went to bed.
It was a bummer not having a fire though, you
I
know?
didn't participate in any of the night ops. I haven't on the past few expeditions. I used to, and I'm too tired anymore. Like
Heather
I
claims she gets
don't-
more activity at base camp.
Well, sometimes it depends on where we are. I have
Mhm.
to where the point where like my adrenaline is like really kicking, but this time nothing happened. I heard some coyotes. And
Nothing at all.
it was quiet. There were campers though that had come later and they were across the way and I could hear their music and stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking if anything were to have come into camp, it might be more interested in what they were doing than me.
that happens.
Because I was just reading like in my tent.
Yeah, we had that team of people camping next to us at
Yeah,
that
and they
point.
were making music, like playing
Right.
music and
They had a
making
recorder,
conversation.
you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking if there were anything now where we were surrounding us on all sides, there's like there's water down below, and I feel like if there's potential for a Bigfoot to come up on the tent from behind. Nobody noticed it at all.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, and the way that it is back there, it could just be very stealthy and you wouldn't even hear it. So
The coolest encounter that I've ever had at base camp? Or are you asking Heather that? I think
I've
it's Heather.
gotten stuff
Yeah.
thrown at the tent, like the side of the tent, like pelted, like pine cones, rocks, stuff like that. Stuff that, like I can't explain it falling out of a tree like that. I've heard footsteps. I remember the first time I went camping with Eric, it was like 5:36 in the morning. The sun was starting to come up. And we were in a little tent, the little tent, right?
Mhm.
And he was sleeping. And we had an axe because we had been axe throwing the day before, and it was
Taught her how
like
to throw an axe.
out by the campfire. And I'm like, every Friday the 13th movie I've ever watched is going through my mind. And I'm like, oh man, this sucks. It's not how I wanted to go. But I heard bipedal footsteps traipsing around behind and around the tent. But I unzipped the thing and I looked out, but my field of vision was only like this, so I couldn't really see anything. But I definitely heard, and who knows, could it have been a person? But it was all in like mountain laurel and poison ivy and everything. We were
Oh, yeah.
backed up to like brush,
Yeah, and that time up in northern New Jersey, I remember you were back at base camp. I had gone to do a preliminary scouting. for
Yeah,
the Pied Piper.
I left my vape, I left my phone,
She got out of that tent. She was talking to her mother, and she thought I was messing with her,
I
right?
was like, yeah, Eric's back.
But I wasn't there. So she
Nope.
got out of the tent and walked down the trail to Terry and Nathan's.
Something threw a
Papa.
rock at me.
She's like, "Can I come in?
Yeah.
Can I come
No,
in?"
I walk up to their camper and it's all dark and I'm like, shit, they're not here. And then I hear Heather. It was Terry, and she's like, you can come in, and they turned the light on. Apparently they were trying to like take a nap. Yeah, I was scared because I was by myself. I'm on a ridge again. There's water down below. And this ridge is very like
Steep.
I mean,
Mhm.
yeah.
So which one? That current last one that we had, or
That
the
was
one before?
Steam Mill.
Yeah, we'll come to locations, but yeah.
Oh, we're not going back there.
We might. You never know. But yeah, it was that type of rock throwing, intimidation,
Yeah.
try to get a rise out of her. She didn't experience what I did with the hand coming
No.
through the tent fabric, over my head. That's a little daunting. But
Just the fact that though when you're alone in the tent and your whole group is out, there's nobody around for miles, and you know that your radio is not going to get them. And
another
It's
thing happened
kinda
up at
scary.
that North Jersey campsite, though, a different campsite this time. But you remember when you were in the teardrop?
oh, and the bear was outside.
Yeah.
So Rusty, our friend Rusty, has this teardrop camper and it doesn't lock.
Kind of like the one I was in, in BC. Leave the door
Hardly.
open.
I have severe allergies right now, so please just ignore me. I'm gonna sniffle blow everywhere. But I'm in this teardrop because I used to like play my games, and he had Wi-Fi and stuff hooked up in there. And he has all these cameras around, game cameras for Bigfoot, But there was definitely a bear out there. I could hear it. I could hear it making noises. It was huge, whatever it was. And I had to pee.
Could have been a big.
I had to pee so bad, and I was holding it for like 2 hours because I had the door like this. I'm like, I can't go out there. Yeah, that was funny.
That was pretty intimidating, huh?
I don't know what it was. Maybe it was Bigfoot. I don't know. I couldn't
That was
see
a
it.
different expedition than the one.
Because that's the thing. I was surrounded by cameras, but I couldn't see anything because everything was pitch black.
Right.
So it wasn't doing me any good. There was no night vision, no infrared, nothing like that. It was just black. So like, this isn't doing me any good.
Let's see. Possibility of, yeah, well, we definitely are
Oh, there's
prepared.
bears.
We're definitely aware of the bear population.
You have to
up
pack
there
your
for
stuff
sure.
in your cars. You have
So
to hang things from poles.
Yeah, we take all the precautions, and we have bear spray, of course. Honestly, it's never been really a problem in all the times we've been up there. We've had bears come into camp, but we just usually jump up and down, wave our arms, and say, "Get out of here, bear!" And they
pretty much
leave.
go away.
She didn't get to see the bear last time because when we were driving out of base camp one day, I asked her to reach down and grab, I think, a plug for my phone or something.
Yeah.
Just as she's reaching down to grab it, a bear runs out in front of my car. I'm like, "Oh, bear!"
I look up, I see the bear's ass going down the hill. Like, what was that?
Bear. Boo-boo.
Yeah, it's good times.
So yeah, that kind of puts us through to Saturday, and Saturday morning we made breakfast. Oh, I forgot we made, of course, dinner for everybody Friday night.
Yeah, that's nice.
On the grill. We were allowed to grill at least, even without the fire, but no s'mores. So Saturday morning I made breakfast, and we all ate a nice breakfast, and then did some day scouting at a location that I was granted access to, some private land of a cranberry farmer,
Beautiful.
one of my
there.
customers, and we kind of decided what the plan was going to be for the day. Well, actually, I didn't decide till later, but took them around, gave them a tour of the area, and it's just a beautiful part of New Jersey. We took them to the Grand Canyon, right?
It is like the Grand Canyon out there. It's really
Yeah,
pretty.
I had never seen this place before, so this was a first for me, and it was definitely impressive.
It's a quarry.
Yeah, and we decided to maybe include it in our travels later that night. So we had originally had talked about having a couple of teams set up across the lake, one team going into the private area, the other people being set up on a park area, and then the potential for a third team to go further up on the lake, on the other northern bank, to have like a three-way kind of triangle with provocations. Then I thought, you know what? We don't always get this opportunity to go onto this particular area, virgin territory. Why don't we do what we did in British Columbia, where we had two teams? The first team goes in, the other team waits about 10-15 minutes, and then they follow the first team in. Okay, so we wound up doing that, and I took my team in first, and we got through the different gates we had to cross over by the dam and everything, and then Patty led her team in afterwards after she waited, and a little while after that we got set up, kind of just formed a little quick satellite camp. Waited a while, just kind of getting accustomed to the sounds of the forest around us. And again, started with like a knock, did I think a blast block knock to show the attendees how that's done.
Right.
They did a response knock, did a couple back and forths with that. Didn't have any definite responses though from anything locally. But Brian had brought a K2 meter. Is that also called an EMF, I think? K2? I think that's what they do. And he had that down on the ground next to his chair where he was sitting. And we had Sarah with us, who's an intuitive, a clairvoyant, and Brian and Skylar are both very intuitive. I'll tell you what, man, we had some paranormal activity that blew me away. You weren't there. You were at base camp.
No, you told me you had chills though.
I had my hair standing up on my arms, goosebumps, pins and needles in my legs. I had a cold streak going through my body. And this K2 meter was responding to the questions we were asking it. I know Sarah asked the questions, I was asking it, and it would be instant response, like it lit up, Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I've never experienced anything as I don't know how to call it, like
Powerful.
powerful. Yeah, I had this emotion come over me. I felt like this sorrow and sadness. I was welling up, like I wanted to cry. Um, Turns out they were having a conversation, like Sarah and I think Skylar were picking up on the energy of the spirit. It turns out they say it was a young male who apparently committed suicide and wanted to get a message across to the family that he was sorry. I mean, it was amazing, and I left out a part. I was seeing white lights flickering down the trail. I'm thinking, is that Patty's team, right? So I radioed down to Patty. They said, no, they're around this bend a little bit. Um, wow. No, I would say, I mean, that was pretty impressive, Brian. I have to say that blew me away. And the other team, Caden had brought his K2 meter as well, and they were having some activity as well. But I couldn't explain the white lights. And Sarah saw them as well. A couple other people saw them. We had Jacob with us on our
That's
team,
not the first time
and
you've seen white lights. The white light in
no, the white lights I've
Colorado.
seen before, but I never had.
No, I mean maybe it's something. Maybe it's something trying to communicate with you through that. You
No
remember the
idea.
one in Dead Woman's Hollow?
Yeah,
You get
well, that's
chills from
true.
that too. Remember?
Yeah. No, but that was a bright white light, like a headlamp.
This
These
was
these were down the trail and it was like flickering. Sarah saw them
understood.
as well. But we maintained the conversation for, oh my God, for a long time. Meanwhile, it's like I got the mic stick and the headphones on and shit. I'm like, I'm
Talking to
here looking for
ghosts.
a big
You're
thing.
talking to
I'm
ghosts.
having a conversation with a ghost.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Matt would probably frown upon that, to be honest
Oh,
with you, but
thank you for speaking about Matt. Gotta go back to Friday. I totally forgot. Sorry, folks. I didn't take my Prevagen
we'll take
today.
what we can get in these parts.
I had Matt join us. Matt Moneymaker joined us virtually from California through the power of technology and addressed the team and did what he did for me in northern New Jersey, where he brought up the map and he's looking at where we are and he says, and this is where I would be right here. This is where I would go. I'm like, well, man, I already got us going here, but it's close.
We have Jacob's yelling in the background. He's like, that's gated. That's gated. That's gated.
Like, no, you're not
You
getting
can't
in
get in
there. Well, no, it gave me some ideas of where to go in the future. You know what I mean? For sure. And it was just fun, I thought, to have Matt join us
That was
virtually from
awesome.
California. We managed to get that put together. So that was cool.
No, it was a fun time. I didn't do any squatching, but I really met a lot of awesome people.
Yeah.
And I got some rest. That's all. I'm good.
So that's always part of it. But Saturday, again, getting back to this area, we finally like wrapped things up at this spot. We weren't getting the Bigfoot activity we were hoping for. So we all hiked back out. And as we're leaving, though, we kind of regrouped at the bog across the trail from the lake, and we heard what sounded like 3 power knocks. Okay. Not sure, can't confirm it at this point. I'm going to review audio as well. However, we then hiked back to our vehicles and drove across the trail to this area I call the Grand Canyon. And here I'm expecting that we'll go there and take a group shot with the therm at night, be cool with the rim of the canyon and everything. So we get in, we hike up to the gate that I had access to. Everybody goes in, and there's people working in the sand pit at 2 a.m. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I said,
Wait, is that the sound you heard?
I don't
The
know.
wood knocks?
That's the thing. It didn't sound like metallic, but again, I can't say for sure. I mean, who the hell works in a sand pit at 2 a.m?
Especially out there. It's like,
It made no sense on a Sunday, right? Sunday morning, early hours. Who knows? So I'm like frustrated. Okay, we take the group shot anyway. We're all standing there along the rim, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to do a call." So I did a loud Bigfoot call, and then I put on my red headlamp LED, hoping to freak them out, and get them to tear out of there. Instead, they put on their bright LED light bar on the bulldozer and light us up. Everybody hits the ground, Everybody's like laying on the ground hiding, except for, Patty's husband Eric, who's standing there like,
Is that picture you guys posted of that light and Patty's like, everybody duck and
yeah, that's the one. And Eric's standing there going, yeah, what you got? I'm not afraid of you. So
everyone get down.
everybody get down. Yeah, no, it's funny. It's kind of like what we were taught, hide behind the trees and the poison ivy. But
Matt had us do that on an expedition. Like there was just a guy coming down the road in a car, a truck, and he was like, everybody get down. And he had us hiding in the bushes. And I was like, oh, yeah. But yeah, we did that.
yeah, as far as, thank you, Brian, for answering that for David. The next one that I'm doing is Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania in September. I'm not sure when the next New Jersey expeditions are. And North New Jersey is probably going to be Larry. I've kind of relinquished that territory to my associate Larry Rippin. Okay. So yeah, it was fun. We haven't laughed that hard in a long time, and
Sarah won the
I know Bobby had a good time. He was hysterical. He was cracking up.
Sarah
Oh
won
yeah,
the
we did.
trivia.
Thank you. See, it's awesome that you're remembering these things. I keep forgetting. I took some notes, but then I didn't use them. We did our trivia contest after dinner on Saturday, and had some tough questions out of the handbook. And Sarah from Ontario, won the first prize. And Bobby from Massachusetts took second place after a pretty intense tiebreaker. I will say that we had like 3 people who were fighting for the tiebreaker, which I don't usually do. I usually only have one winner, but I figured we'd be fun this year. And so we had to have a few tiebreaker questions, and Bobby won. So Sarah got the cast of the Patterson-Gimlin track cast, and Bobby got the Pine Barrens track cast as prizes to take home with them. So that's exciting, right?
Yeah, and I was like joking, and I was like, oh, if you can guess all 4 of the
Horsemen,
the 4
the 4
horsemen.
horsemen.
And Caden comes up to me and he's like,
right
all 4 of them. And I was so impressed. This kid's 18 years old.
Well, now he's 19.
He was 18. I was like, wow, I was really impressed by him.
Yeah, for a young guy, and very enthusiastic. So we had about 16 people. Nate and Terry didn't make it down because of an obligation that Nathan had. Usually I like to keep mine a little smaller though. With a couple of guests that came down, we had Michael O'Connell from McKell's Plot come down Saturday night, and he went out with us Saturday night as well. And I had Paul Patterson going to join us and play some music, but he had another obligation, so he was unable to make it. Like Heather said, Regina from Finding Bigfoot fame.
People actually recognized her. Like, I know you from somewhere.
Where do I know her from?
That's
she was the science teacher, It took up the whole road. Her famous line from Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And of course, Andy came back Saturday, and we fed him, and he picked up the canoe from me, which was cool. So thanks again, Andy. Overall, I have to say it was a success. Everybody made it out alive. I didn't have any ticks. Some people complained that they had a lot of ticks.
I had them all over me, but none in me. But I was constantly picking them off.
In fact, I understand, Ryan, right? Didn't you have ticks for 2 days later? I think.
No, didn't Bobby go home with a nest of ticks?
We're not doing too bad after not being on for over a month. We got some people actually sticking and staying, so thank you. I
Didn't Bobby go home with like a nest of ticks on him?
Bobby had a family of ticks.
Yeah, I was like,
I brought home a family of ticks, and Sarah had one cross the border with her, and she was going to get him on charges of illegal border crossing, but they were doing overtime. Yeah. So anyway, that's one of the downfalls of being in the Pine Barrens is the chiggers and ticks, or as I like to call them, tiggers and chicks.
They're everywhere.
That's why I use permethrin, and I had that video posted on our group Facebook page.
I took his clothes and I washed them with like my clothes that I wear to work, and everything smells like permethrin now.
It smells like permethrin. Thank you, Heather. Good job.
Sorry.
Well, the next time, don't wash them together.
Brian said he found one on Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Separate loads. The permethrin stinks.
Well, hey, I'm going to definitely make another visit to the doctor because I've been aching all over. I don't know if it's from the canoe ride or what, or the Lyme disease kicking in.
Well, I'm itchy. I don't know if anybody's noticed. I've been scratching myself. Like, I'm still itchy from the expedition. Like, all the bites and stuff that I got.
So, but yeah, hey, if anybody is interested, we're talking about maybe doing some Squatch Talks podcast expeditions in the
Yeah.
future. You know what I mean?
Small, intimate ones.
Outside of the BFRO necessarily. So, we got some ideas going on. And you went to Barnes and I found crawling into my heart.
Barnes and Nobles is my favorite store.
Now you're talking Heather's language. She wants to do this. She wants to have her own backdrop of just her and her books, for when we do
I'm
this. in the future.
obsessed. That's
So
all
as
I
you
do.
notice, like I said, Nathan's not with me. I mean, I was hoping he might jump on and just let everybody know that he loves them and misses them, but he's going to take a little break. Who knows? Brian's still doing his thing, doing well. We're still family, still love each other, and I want what's best for them, obviously. But as I said, I'm going to try to keep this thing going. I've got some great guests lined up and some really cool interviews coming up. But Heather and I have talked about maybe getting out and going out looking for stuff, you know what I mean? And just like really doing the research and filming it. So I'm going to take some of the material that I recorded on the expedition and put together an episode, of course, from the Pine Barrens expedition. So hopefully that'll be ready by next week. No guarantees, life gets in the way sometimes. I got to be honest. And tomorrow, like I said, I'll be canoeing down the river, the same one Patty and I canoed down with David. But yeah, I'm going to do a little further downstream. Yeah, downstream from where she and I did it. So get a different eyes on approach.
Yeah.
With my firstborn, Tristan. So that'll be fun for Father's Day. And if you're a father and you're listening, like Brian and others I know out there, I want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day. And to all our fans and followers, I hope it's a great day for all of you dads out there. My daughter Anastasia is in Indonesia right now, right? She's Bali. I don't know where she's at. Going to Indonesia, Bali, and Thailand. So
Singapore. Well, Indonesia is Bali.
Well, that's what I said. Yeah,
but she's going to
Indonesia,
Thailand, and Singapore.
Yeah, so she's my world traveler at the moment. So she won't be with Dad, but Tristan and I will go out in the canoe and relive some old memories of taking trips down the river together.
Aww.
So that'll be fun.
That's so cute.
So what do you think, Heather? Does that wrap up all the excitement of the expedition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was just socializing, being with friends. Art was there.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing Gina and Ken and all of our close friends was really good, and then making new ones was awesome.
Absolutely.
Like David is so. You really need to sit down one-on-one with him.
I thought
his stories are like so cool.
I thought Art and David were going to have some real interesting conversations because Art always wanted to do the
Africa
thing with the wildlife photography and documentaries, So I thought they would be a good fit for sure. The next expedition we had planned in Pennsylvania, we got some interesting guests coming as well. I got an eDNA scientist coming, which is awesome. I mean, last time we had an anthropologist, this time an eDNA scientist with a lab available to him.
Yeah,
I'm excited, it's pretty awesome. So hey,
we
got a lot of things on the horizon. Yeah, I'm feeling it after a couple of weeks of all this activity and the work involved with putting together one of these things. So I'm gonna take a couple of Tylenol and get Heather to rub some CBD on me. But
we were actually talking about going out in the woods tonight, so we might actually end up doing that.
Yeah,
just to get out for a little bit, but
just take a ride out there. Oh,
do some calls
Monday after the expedition, after everything was said and done, and I had gotten everything back home. I went out Monday and I flew the drone over the base camp area. Took a hike up by the river there. I got back out and the food that I had left, I should have left my trail camera out another night, but Heather was like, did you get your camera?
They've gotten stolen before. I'm not doing that.
Well, guess what? All the food was gone and I'm wondering now what took it. Okay. So who knows? Just like in New York, when I left them up there an extra night, I probably would have had the best footage in the world. But hey, when any questions, I'm gonna check. I'm sorry. I'm not able to multitask too well, but thank you, Father. And Brian. Hey, I hope you guys, thank you. I hope you feel like you're part of it. You know what I mean? That's what I try to do, to give you as much visual as possible.
And you're always welcome, Greg,
Oh, he was gonna come, but he had another obligation up in northern New Jersey. But he did come.
Out.
He came up to Trinity Cottage.
Hang out at the camp, have some food, and
absolutely
tell some stories.
But yeah, and So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting together again. I think Sarah put together a page or something, a private group or whatever about some family reunion thing. I don't think she kind of gets it. It's not how it usually works, but
Yeah, I personally didn't
anybody's
appreciate that either.
anybody's willing, welcome to visit the Pine Barrens. But if you're planning a trip, maybe when I'm having another expedition, it could be, inconvenient
Problematic.
or problematic.
Yeah.
That'd be a good word.
People
I-
traipsing around
I
together.
tried to explain that to her, but hey, I love everybody and we'll hopefully see everybody soon. And thanks again for clicking and sticking and then tuning in. And I don't mind if you share us with your friends and family. And Heather, what do we say?
Thanks for squatching.
Peace.